I was wondering what that button did. But we are live. I almost removed Joe by accident.
No
So
worries.
I'm glad that did. I'm glad that didn't happen. The little guy with a minus on him means remove.
Means
What
get
do you
rid of
think of
this
the
guy.
lighting here? What's that?
Means get rid of this guy right here or what?
I guess so. Light or no light?
um,
Light, no light.
do it again.
Light, no light.
Oof, probably no light, I guess, maybe.
No light. Yeah, I think so too, because the rest of the book. So anyway, this is an impromptu video with Joe, and we're East Coast, West Coast, and it's an impromptu video because you guys obviously don't like Ant Boy because I put that video up yesterday, and usually I'll get like 20, 30, 40, whatever views, but then we got 8. So I'm like, it's either there's either the people don't like me anymore, or they don't like Matt Diesel, or they don't like Ant Boy, or they're outside because it's springtime. Be a million reasons why I got such a low view count on that. But that's cool. But I just figured I think it's that people
I
just
was
don't
gonna
like
say
Ant Boy. So we're gonna look at
it'll get
what's
probably
that?
get. I mean, sure, it'll get views over time. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure it'll pick up.
It will. It will. It will, but it had so few that I was like, I got to do something to please the masses, And I know that this will please the masses because um, who doesn't love Simon Bisley and Slain? Actually, I don't love Slain. Uh, I don't know why. I don't love the book, but I just don't. And because I read it a while ago, and I never really went back to it other than to look at the pretty art and the story. I think was kind of confusing or something. But we're gonna just look at the art a little bit,
I have
and then
slains myself. Like I also have slain, and I don't know that I even could tell you what it's about. You know what I mean? Like I don't really.
right, yeah,
It is. It's like I want to say, is it like someone telling? Isn't it that little dwarf guy telling the story
yeah,
of
yeah,
Slain?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's what it is, right?
He's got like a partner or whatever, and he's a dwarf, and as you can see, my copy has just gone all to hell. So that's another reason why I've kind of been waiting to do this because it's I don't really like the thing is I don't like to go over graphic novels and trade paperbacks because it's hard to do on camera, but at the same time, this is so what I'm hoping all the pages are still there. So we're just going to look at the pretty art, and we can just talk about whatever we're going to talk about too,
Yeah,
I
no
guess.
worries.
So so you have do you have
No, I
this,
think
or do you have
I
a
have that
different
same thing.
version?
I mean, it's not that it is a different version or whatever, but it's the same, comic or whatever. But I don't have. I don't know what. Mine's not a magazine like yours looks like a magazine.
This is a graphic novel, and it's the comic book
Yeah, mine it has like it's. I want to say it
comic
was
book
like
version.
3 or 4 issues or something like that.
Oh, is it a
Yeah,
reprint,
I guess
or
probably it
is it
is.
like original
Because I
old?
mean, it's
Huh.
that same stuff. It looks like that same material.
Well, this is a reprint from 2000 AD, which is where Slain was originally created. And I was looking up his history and stuff, and originally he was drawn by because it's written by Pat Mills, written and created by Pat Mills, and then drawn by Simon Bisley, which it's art, it's painted and stuff. But it was originally drawn by Pat Mills' wife, who did an original story, and it's weird how like an amazing artist can change the direction and the how something is viewed and stuff because you look at her art and it's perfectly good. It's perfectly fine. Um, but it's just nothing compared to this. Like Slain is pretty much Simon Bisley, art, and that's all there is to it. Um, but it makes me think of, how would we love Conan as much if Frazetta hadn't taken a wing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Have you seen like some of the old Conan art or whatever?
From the books or
I mean,
from
like what it looked like
the comic?
before Robert E. Howard got it. Because there was because like I mean, you know, is an old story. It goes way back. You know what I mean? Like they're from the 1930s.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
obviously, Robert. I mean, Frank Frazetta is not the first guy to draw Conan. You know what I mean?
Right, right. I mean, there must have been. I'm gonna have
That,
to look that up and see
that's
how
what I'm
many
asking you. That's what I'm
weird
asking.
tales.
Have you ever seen any of the guys that drew Conan? You know what I mean? Like in the past.
I don't think so, but those weird tail covers are awesome. So if
Well,
somebody
yeah,
had done Conan, I'm sure it
Frank
was awesome.
Frazetta. He is the
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. But those weird tales. I have. Do you have any weird tales
I don't.
magazine?
I don't.
I
Uh-uh.
I have one, and I'm gonna look at it on video.
But
It's
like right there, you know what I mean? That's like a old Weird Tales Conan, cover right there,
oh yeah, yeah. See, this is the only weird tales I have. So yeah, that I think that's pretty
I'm
cool.
just
It's not Frank
yeah,
Frazetta.
it's just like
It's not Frank Frazetta,
um
obviously.
I have some more
Oh
somewhere
wait,
else.
is that Frank Frazetta?
No, that's not
Is
Frazetta,
that
no.
Frank Frazetta doing the art?
I mean, this is a
That's not
Frazetta
Frazetta.
book because they're discussing Conan or
Right.
whatever. But that
Yeah.
was just no, that's a early illustrated version of the character. And it looks vastly different,
Yeah.
like mostly I think people just kind of took approach of like a sort of pseudo Roman soldier kind of thing. You know what I mean? Is like
Yeah. Yeah.
what most of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
early Conan
And he
stuff looks like.
yeah, and he doesn't have the it's like some artists just have a certain flair about them, and it's different and it's unusual and it's something that everybody wants to emulate, and that's certainly Simon Bisley.
Oh, look,
I
here's another one right here. Like, look at
Yeah,
this one.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's like
Like
it looks more like it looks like Spartacus
Tarzan.
or something. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like
yeah,
Kirk
yeah,
Douglas and Spartacus. Like
yeah,
or like here's a couple more. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And they're definitely like you know more Roman.
They're perfectly
Yeah,
fine, but they're just not there's not as
and then you
fantastic
see
as so that's what I'm wondering. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's amazing
Frazetta.
stuff. So I'm just kind of wondering if there would have been a Conan comic book if Frank Frazetta hadn't,
Oh
or
yeah,
I wonder if he
like if
didn't.
Marvel had ever would have ever grabbed it had it not been for
Yeah,
Frazetta or whatever.
yeah,
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 I
yeah.
mean, it's
So
just it's like anything. I mean, would the X-Men have been as popular as they were if John Byrne and Chris Claremont didn't work so good together? And then would have had that really
well,
pinnacle
they're gonna
moment had it
cancel it.
not been for
They're gonna
Jim Lee
cancel
coming
it.
in right when he did. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
it's all of those
yeah,
things
yeah.
working
That's
together.
true.
It's the story and the art, because it can't be just one or the other. Because just the story with bad art is
Yeah,
not that
yeah.
interesting. And we all know that great art with no story, it just goes nowhere. I mean, look at Spawn.
Yeah, 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 and that's true for Slain, I think, because, like I said, I read this and I don't remember anything like you. I don't remember anything from the story, and it's got all of the things that you should make it awesome story wise. I mean, it's got all these mythical creatures. Got a big dude with a sword. Got dwarves and hot looking chicks and stuff. So it should be everything that we want.
Well,
This should still be running.
it's
They should be a Slain comic book every
I mean
month.
that stuff is tricky. Well, first of all, the art probably takes a long time to produce. You know what I mean? Like those aren't
Oh
being
yeah,
made fast.
no
Like
doubt.
I'm
Yeah.
sure those are very laborious, to get done. And
Oh
then
yeah.
you have to, like you probably need to. I mean, it's a lot of things. And someone out there writing this stuff. Bisley was not the writer. You know what I mean? Like he could paint this stuff, but
Right.
like,
Right.
you need someone doing a competent series of stories that have a place they're going to. Like that's the most important
Yeah.
thing about comics is like it's so easy to get like involved in that idea of like, oh, the story is the art and the art is the story. Like, but you can look at
Right. Right.
Spawn
Right. Right.
years later and see that really doesn't work all that much. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
just kind of
Yeah.
goes nowhere for forever. Or it just spins
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
circles. Like.
Yeah.
But you can see
I
in something like Berserk, or like One Piece or something where the story's definitely seem to be having a direction. Like, they're heading in that direction, and at some point the story will have an ending. You know what I mean? And
Right.
things like that
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
it meaningful. When you're just
Yeah.
tires spinning your wheels, going no place, like it's not really that meaningful to people.
Yeah. 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 Definitely. Definitely. That's not to say that. I mean, Pat Mills is awesome. He's done some great stuff. I can't, think of anything off. Well, no. Um, Pat Mills did martial law. I'm pretty sure. Do you know of anything? I don't even know who's your favorite writer for comic books.
Oh gosh, I
Do
don't
you
really
have
have
one?
one. You know what I mean? I'm not a real writer guy, and it's very rare for me to
Yeah.
read a comic book and think that it has that interesting of a plot and storyline or whatever. Like, there's lots of good guys out there doing lots of cool stuff. Um, I mean, there's lots of great writers. I mean, people tend to like Grant Morrison or whatever. Everybody's just like, oh my god,
I
Grant
I
Morrison! Like,
love
my
love
gosh, like
Grant Morrison.
like I
I
don't
love
know,
him.
man. Like, he's no Stephen King. I'll tell you that much, dude. Like, I don't know.
Well, they're
Like,
different. They're different.
all I can say is, like, most of the writers I think are great are book writers. You know what I mean? They're not comic book writers. Like, most comic book writers, they write comic book stories and they can be cool. But I've never, like, Wendy Pini, like, I'll go back to it again and again. She's the only person who ever wrote something in a comic book that made me be like, wow, like, this
Huh.
story was amazing. It went somewhere. I was in love with the characters. You know what I mean? I cared when they almost died. I almost had a fit. You know what I mean? Like, that's
Yeah.
how I felt
Yeah.
when I read The Dark Tower. That's how I felt when I read The Stand. That's how I felt when I read It. You know what I mean? Like, I lived with the characters and I loved them and I wanted to be part of their world or whatever. But I never experienced that in a comic book, dude.
Huh.
Like,
That is
I just don't. You know what I mean? I
that
never
blows
have.
my
Like,
mind.
except for like ElfQuest, that's the one example where I have, because most of them don't stick to a story long enough to really give you that kind of a feeling. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I know
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
dudes out there doing it. Like, maybe Preacher might be like that, and I just don't know about it. You know what I mean? Or because I never
Well,
read it.
you don't feel that way about Dark Knight Returns?
Dark Knight Returns was a cool story, but it's a novelette. You know what I mean? Like, it's not Harry Potter. It's not 8 books of, like, meaningful character development that goes somewhere and have a ending that's meaningful. You know what I mean? Like, it isn't. Like,
I would
like
definitely
it
have to
is
disagree.
cool.
I would
It's a
definitely have to
novelette.
disagree.
I mean, it's a good little short book. I think it's
Yeah.
rad, and I read it multiple times. And I would choose The Dark Knight Returns over, like, Watchmen any day of the week. I think it's but I don't put
Right.
it like that much far above The Killing Joke. You know what I mean? Like, Killing Joke is also, I don't put it
Yeah.
that much
Yeah.
far above Arkham Asylum. You know what I mean? It's like they're all the same thing.
Yeah.
They're all just like one shot little stories that told the Batman story. Is it that much better than Court of Owls? Not that much. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
proponently placed higher up because, like, oh, it's a story of Batman in his decline, and that's what makes it so unique and cool. Is that it's like, this formative idea of that Batman hasn't been Batman for 10 years, and then he comes back and is this kick-ass, dirty, hairy Batman, which was a great
Right.
idea in the
Right. Well,
80s.
yeah. Well, this is a topic we're definitely going to have to get back to because I am on the other end of the spectrum. I will look at comic books and I might get a few comic books because of the artist, but the writer is what I really look for and what I really kind of go after.
I mean, I want
Like
to say,
that's what'll keep me.
Walking Dead and Invincible, probably might have that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I've not I've not dipped into those things like the comic books in any meaningful way. Like, I've
Yeah.
experienced Invincible on the TV show. It's all right. I There's times I like it and there's times I hate it. Uh, Walking Dead as the TV show, I didn't like it very much. I'm not a fan really, but I've seen the comic book, and I bet you the comic book is probably way better because, like, they
Yeah.
change stuff for the TV shows and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, the writers
Yeah.
think they're better than the creators of the thing that they're emulating. Like,
Yeah.
and they'll make decisions that the comic book guys didn't make. And they'll take, just
Yeah.
like with Game of Thrones, whatever. They'll take it in their own direction eventually, and it can sully it. It's not necessarily the true thing at that point. So for all I know, like, you know what I mean? Because those are two hugely successful IPs, and I've not done that much divulging into them. They are both comics. they're both very long form as well. Like I know they have multiple like collected versions of those things. Like so
Yeah,
they have
yeah, yeah,
probably
yeah. We're
hundreds,
we're
if not
definitely we're
thousands of
definitely on the
pages.
we're definitely on the opposite ends of the spectrum for stuff like that because I love the writing. I think the writing in all of Frank Miller's writing is just beautiful. It's just beautiful. It conjures images in his writing, and it like just complements the images that are there, and it
I
just
don't know, man. I don't know. I think
evokes.
like he's a hack writer, if you ask me. Like I think Frank Miller is
Whoa,
not
my
that good of a
good
writer.
God! Well,
Dude, like
you're
I'll
definitely
say
entitled to your opinion.
I'll
You're
say the
definitely
same thing
entitled to your opinion.
about the English guy too. Like now, both of them come up with cool stories. They have cool
Alan Moore.
stories, and they have cool mysteries and stuff like that. Alan Moore. But dude, like Alan Moore's
Yeah.
writing in The Watchmen is so childish and it's so bad. It's so many points, dude. Like some of that stuff is so contrived from like it's so trying to be like Mickey Spillane, and he just is bad at it. You know what I mean? And Mickey Spillane is already a bad writer to begin with. So by emulating a bad writer, you're just like this. It sounds childish to me, dude. Like that whole thing, like what
Well,
is it? That opening thing, like
we are
where it's all
definitely we are definitely definitely 100% on the opposites on that one because Alan Moore is my
dude.
favorite
That
writer,
whole
and I
thing
think he's
about
just a
the
genius.
dog
He's a
with the
genius
burst
as far as I'm
stomach.
concerned.
The car tread on dog
That's
with the burst
awesome.
stomach.
That's aw
It's
that's
so childish,
awesome.
dude. It's
That's
so
awesome. It's
childishly
not Chi
bad, Alex. You
it's
know what I
not
mean?
well, anyway,
It's so
anyway,
childishly bad.
this
All of
you
that stuff. To be
this
like, oh, this whole
yeah, I
city's like a sewer full of retarded
yeah,
children, and it's like an
yeah, this is
abattoir screaming. Dude, like that stuff is
it
so
is.
bad. It's
Well,
cringeworthy.
we're definitely gonna have to disagree
I guess,
100%. And so, so, um, what do you think of Simon Bisley?
I think he's an amazing artist. I love his. I love how he fetishizes the muscle because he's a muscle man.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And his colors are amazing. His colors kind of like they cover up like there is a lot of detail, but then there's a lot of times the color to cover up the lack of detail, which is okay too.
Oh, he's very well.
You
Yeah,
know what I'm
yeah. He,
saying?
he does that really soft impressionistic thing, like he's emulating Frazetta.
Like this year. Yeah, like this here or this around the face. Like you've got this detail in the face, but then you've got all of this
You got
airbrush. I
this sort of.
assume.
It's like a halo of light that's sort of
Yeah,
encompassing all
yeah,
this creates a softness
yeah,
on the features or whatever.
yeah,
Like
yeah. Same
um,
thing with this background. It's got a lot of detail, but it also has a lot of different color and textures to
I
kind
want to
of
say
cover
like
over the
I
lack of
think that's
detail.
why Frazetta like embraced painting so much more than like say the line art, which everybody looks at and
Yeah,
we all know how good he was at it. We all like everybody's just like, oh my god, I wish there was more of this stuff. But I think the reason where there isn't is because like he'd always talk about how like when painting, it's easier to have like happy accidents or whatever, where you're smearing
yeah,
the paint
yeah,
around and you get these nice effects that maybe you didn't
yeah.
necessarily conjure in your brain, but then like you'd be like working on the paint and be like, oh, I see this, how this is making a halo of light right here or whatever. And then,
Right. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Those like effects like become like techniques that you could use over time, and like you kind of really learn how to embrace that stuff. And he always talks about how like it would just be like you get more interesting moments during the creative process, like during painting, than you do when you're like hacking something out with lines where you're trying to emulate light, with
Right.
freaking
Yeah.
line weight and
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you paint, you know what I mean? Like you paint. I
Yeah.
don't ever paint myself.
Yeah, yeah,
So
it's
I
it's
mean,
definitely a different medium than inking and stuff, drawing
I was
and
gonna say, do you ever have that happen where you're like working and then you'll just kind of be like, oh boy, like I didn't really see that, but that looks cool or
I
whatever.
yeah, yeah, but I don't like it. I hate that actually. Like to me, a happy accident, yeah, it's great and fine, but if I can't replicate it perfectly every time, that's why I have a hard
Then
time
it's
with
frustrating.
watercolors. Mostly the watercolor, you know how those watercolor effects where it's just kind of like bleeds off the page and all, does all this weird stuff. Like if I can't replicate something perfectly and exactly, then I want nothing to do with it.
That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm all about replication of the art. You know, it's
I was
an accident is fine and dandy, but I want to be able to know that I have the skills to create the art, create the, the effect that I'm looking for, and not that it's just an accident.
I really think like well, your latest watercolor stuff has been looking really nice. I mean, I haven't seen anything recently, but the last ones you showed I thought were all really good. Like I'm kind of hoping
Yeah.
you do that whole thing, with the soft watercolor. Like, are you coloring the
Yeah.
ice
Yep.
spiders scene and all that?
Yeah. I'm definitely going to.
You haven't done it yet, but it's like on the table.
I have no. This is my plan is because it's on in random access this month, um, and so this is all done. This is the issue, and I'm going to do this as random access, and then the next 10 pages is my plan. I'm not entirely sure it's going to come to fruition or whatever, but I'm going to 20 pages and then combine them and then do some kind of Kickstarter like that. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the watercolors. It's not exactly how I want it because I want it a lot darker, and I'm just kind of wrestling with that, trying to get it darker but not muddy and like dirty looking and stuff like that. So I don't know.
That's a great looking page right
It's a
there,
work in
man. I
progress.
love that.
It's definitely a work in progress. Thank you. It's definitely a work in progress, and so hopefully each page will look better and stuff. One of the things I did, which is kind of a um, I don't know, I don't know how I feel about it, but I couldn't do the horses in the technique that I wanted, so I did the horses digitally. But then I didn't do the horses digitally in the next ones, and I'm really regretting it. I'm really regretting it. Some people kind of like that look, but I don't. So I think I might do all of my horses from now on digitally.
Is it because
Which,
you end up with too much like brush stroke inside the like
yeah,
horse texture or
ex-
whatever?
exactly. Too much brushstroke texture in the horse that I don't want. It's fun. It's one thing to want that texture and to apply it knowing that that's what I'm going to get. It's another thing to be like, oh crap, I did that and I didn't want it. So
Sure.
that's two differently things that I'm looking at. But
That's funny because I hit you with that up the other day, and I was just like out of the blue. I was like, I'm thinking I'm gonna go, heavy black and white on this thing I'm working on right now, or whatever, like
right,
on the entropy alliance stuff. And I was just like, because and honestly, it's an idea I played around with on my last book, and the whole thing that's a little scary is because I want to do color to a certain extent, but I also have this because color is kind of like it's like a landing pad or something, you know what I mean? Like it's like a safety
yeah,
net.
yeah,
And but
yeah,
there's a part of me that's like wants to challenge myself to do something that's like ElfQuest was, where it was just like so gorgeous and black and white that
yeah, yeah.
it's difficult.
You're talking about you're talking about doing gray tones. You mean
Yeah, just just black and white
gray
and
washes?
gray. Yeah, just as much like
Yeah,
manga,
yeah,
like just trying to put it towards a manga end of like
yeah,
super
yeah,
high line art detail and gray, on the page
yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever. You know
Well,
what I mean?
you can always color it afterwards after the gray's on there, and that'll add even more depth to it.
Well, yeah, I
Like
know.
it,
I mean, like
like
that's what I like.
if
I
you're not
mean,
happy with the gray.
that's kind of how I did Six Lords or whatever. Because if because I color with pens and not computer. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um, it's not as hard to work with the gray. When you're coloring it, you can kind of get away with things here or there. But
yeah,
there's just a part of me that wants to just like commit to, you know what I mean? Like doing as much
yeah,
high
yeah,
level art like in the gray form and then the black and white form before I even like think about colors. It's like I want to try and raise it to a level to where it's like it could be appreciated just as a black and white book. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of
yeah,
what I
yeah.
want.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. But hey, it's 24 minutes, and I just wanted to do a quick video
Yeah,
to kind of make up for the shambles of Ant Boy, because
I
apparently
think
nobody
probably what it
likes
is,
Ant
dude,
Boy.
is just
It's
like
actually it's pretty cool comic. It's pretty fun. If you're into that, if you're not into this kind of cartoony, kind of thing, then
I
it's
was gonna
not
say, I
anybody's.
think,
Yeah,
in this day and age, mostly what the, like I know people like come to it for a certain amount of comic book, intellect and that kind of thing. But I think most people want to see art too that's like meaningful and has some sort of like real merit to it or whatever. And sometimes it's hard for people to see. I mean, even though every artist working on anything is creating something meaningful, and it's all
yeah.
important. But it's hard for someone who isn't, to just look at that and be like, what? You know what I mean? Like maybe or maybe most artists are just not, you know what I mean? They're not interested in seeing something like that. Because I don't know, how old is that piece? Is that from a way back, or is that 1980s?
That the Ant Boy is 88. This was reprinted in here, and this is the reprint from 88, but it was printed previously, probably 84 to 86. So this is like the first time it was collected.
Well, you know
So
what I mean?
yeah,
Like
it's
that's
a
a
while ago.
perfect way of saying it, because it's like there's a part of me that wants to look at that and just like just be like, okay, like this has no value to me. I don't care about it.
Right,
But
right.
like I understand, like okay, like say like my art, which I bleed and put so much work into and all that stuff. Um, no one's ever reprinted anything I've done. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Yeah,
no one
yeah,
gives a shit about
yeah.
my work enough to reprint any of it. So whether I want to dismiss his art or not, it's more important than mine, because like it's been published, and
Well,
somebody out there
that's
wanted it so
definitely a
bad they
topic.
published it again.
That's definitely a topic we're going to get deeper into, as well as your lack of appreciating writing, comic book writing,
No, it's not
um,
that I don't appreciate writing. I just don't think most comic book writers are very
comic book
talented.
writing,
Yeah.
comic book writing.
Yeah, dude. Because I
Um,
love like
so all right,
Robert E. Howard, Edgar Rice Burroughs, Anne Rice,
right,
Stephen
right, right.
King.
You love writing, you just don't love
Yeah,
comic book
just the
writing, but
comic
you're a
book.
comic book writer and
I mean,
artist.
like my favorite guys would be like Chris Claremont, maybe. You know what I mean? Like as far as like the
Yeah,
modern dudes, or like stuff like that. I mean, the guys that could do it all themselves usually have the best thing. Like anytime you're like
yeah,
can self-contain something, and do most of it
yeah,
yourself,
yeah,
that's usually when it's going to be the best. That's why Frank Miller works so well. When Frank Miller draws Frank Miller and tells the Frank Miller story and writes Frank Miller, because it becomes part of a Frank Miller universe. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah,
then it all works, right? Fucking. But when Frank Miller works with someone else like Jim Lee or blah 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 or whomever, oftentimes it falls apart quickly, because like
right, right. Sometimes
the
it does.
things don't
Sometimes it
match up
does.
correctly. It doesn't feel right. It's just like,
Yeah.
like did you see The Spirit, the Frank Miller movie?
Yeah, I
It's
tried
terrible.
to. I started like 20 minutes and I couldn't finish it.
It's a mess. It's a dreck. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Frank
yeah,
Miller also wrote the scripts for RoboCop 2. It's dreck. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not. You know
I
what I mean?
agree.
Like
I agree.
the
But
more like people can, the more like it's condensed and it's all your values. But like when people take something that's like a Jim Lee stew or a Frank Miller stew, and then they start adding like ingredients to it that don't belong in there, and then it just becomes
yeah,
more of a mess. So I always feel like
yeah, yeah,
writers and those kind of things are best when they're you know tied in together to one tight thing. Like that's why people like Hellboy so much. You know what I mean? Because he writes it,
yeah,
he draws it, and it's all like tight, and he knows exactly what it's supposed to be. Like,
yeah,
so
yeah,
I think like that works best. I'm not a guy who like thinks like, oh, this writer, anytime like Alan Moore, anytime he writes something, it's so great. Sometimes it's great. Alan Moore's Supreme stuff is fantastic. His Wildcat stuff is fantastic. I mean, he's definitely an amazing writer who writes really cool stories. Sometimes, I'll read it and I just think it's like it'll be very immature, very childish, or the type of way he's using to describe things is like not good or whatever. But I mean, I've been reading since I was
we're
a
like I
kid.
said, we'll have to disagree,
Like I said,
agree to
like you have to
disagree.
forgive me, because like I had a college level reading when I was in fourth grade. And I was already reading stuff like Taipan and Shogun and things like that. When I was in
Yeah,
fourth grade. So like
yeah,
my level of writing that I expect, or that I really enjoy, never really seems to be found in the
yeah.
medium of
Anyway,
comics.
So this is Lane, and I'm gonna deep dive into it as probably after I'm done with the Call the Bear Barbarian stuff.
Oh
Because
yeah.
it's a long book, and I'm
Oh
gonna
man, the Cole
do a
videos were fun too, dude. Like that was an amazing book. Like what beautiful
yeah.
art in that Cole thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
cool.
definitely.
Yeah, I'm really
So
glad you shared that one.
I'm gonna tackle this after that. So I just kind of wanted to go through it a little bit with you and
Yeah,
let everybody know that that's what we're doing. And now I'm gonna go play some Conan Exiles because that
for
is
sure.
probably my
And
favorite
everybody
game.
else out there, you guys know what to do. You guys all just keep on creating.
Yeah, yeah. Talk to you tomorrow, and we'll be talking about some artists, old and new.
All right, dude. Sounds good.
All right. Have a good
You
one.
too.